just like, oh yeah,
What is
no
going
free time. I hate my life. I gotta write 10 essays this week.
皆さん、こんにちは。朝です。あなたのリスニングを鍛えるために、今回もネイティブ同士の会話をお届けしたいと思います。ちなみにですね、僕はいつもと違うところにいるんですね。僕はどこにいるのか、なんでここに来ているのかは動画の最後のところでシェアしますね。今回の会話もいつも通りに僕のアメリカ人の友達のオースティンとの対話になって、今回は日本の大学とアメリカの大学の違いについてお話ししました。すごく刺激的な会話だったんですけど、やっぱり 100% 英語での会話だと聞き取れない、わからないところがあると思いますので、いつも通りに英語の字幕と日本語の字幕を両方つけたいと思いました。その日本語と英語の字幕で自分のリスニングと自分の理解度を両方確かめることができますので、お役に立てると思います。今回の会話はもともと The Austin and Arthur Show という別のチャンネルで放送されたものになります。そのチャンネルでは僕とオースティンは日本に暮らしてどう思うかについていろいろお話しするためのチャンネルですね。そのチャンネルでは字幕がないんですけど、他にこれと似たような話題をたくさん聞きたい、見たい場合はぜひ The Austin and Arthur Show をチェックしてください。Please check it out. And with that, let's get started. Boo!
All
right, cheers,
go.
man.
Cheers.
Kagatobi has a nice bite to it.
I like this, man.
Yeah.
I know that you were saying you picked this out. This is kind of more towards my style.
Yeah, right.
And God, it just hits the spot. So
yeah, it seems like you've had a rough day. Do you want to talk about what's been going on? First of all, it's Sunday.
It is Sunday, and I'm very tired.
Yeah.
I've been up since 6 a.m. and I've been working since 7. And this is not the first Sunday that I've had to work.
Okay.
I've been working about a month every Sunday.
Okay.
I've
been working a month every Sunday.
There we go.
Working Sunday one Sunday a month, right?
You know English better than I do at this point. So it's currently fall. Right? It's the beginning of December, and this is historically a really busy time for teachers.
Yeah.
For two reasons. First of all, Kosan students, so seniors in high school, are taking their entrance exams to get into college and are preparing to get into college.
Don't you mean juniors? Kosan is junior, right? Because does it go up to 4 years?
Here in Japan, high school is 3 years.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Dude, why am I just finding this out now? I'm sure I knew it before, but I forgot about it. Okay.
So Kosan would be seniors here. Typically, like what would be considered freshmen in America is usually still junior high school students.
Okay.
So like ninth graders. So they're getting ready for college and kind of helping them. Like I've been working with a student who she's applying for Stanford.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Stanford.
So we gotta really work on that one.
Yeah.
I hope she gets in. But I've been helping students with their recommendation letters, and also we're having entrance exams for my school. So the pretty much every Sunday this past month, I've been coming in and doing entrance exams, doing like interviews on Zoom and in person, and grading essays, and everything. And it's been a really long month.
Seems like it.
But I feel a little bit inspired after this month because I've read so many essays now that I've actually come up with this idea of I want to actually get a journal and start writing sentences down that are just hilarious
like
to
what
me.
Kind of sentences?
So I want to preface this by saying this is not so much a language like discrepancy. I'm not making fun of somebody whose English isn't good.
Yeah.
The students who I'm grading, they're all there's a common term here in high schools here in Japan called returnee.
Oh yeah, kikokushijo, right?
Yeah. So that means Japanese students who have lived in another country for a couple of years, right? And then are returning back to Japan. And typically these students are completely fluent in, like, for example, English, right? You talk to them and they almost don't even have an accent. Right? So these are students who have a pretty good mastery of the English language. But but they're still high schoolers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you would see these sentences creep up in American high schools. And the one particular one stuck out to me this past week, where we were doing a question about, do you know Othello? It's a Shakespeare play.
Yeah, the Shakespeare play, yeah.
Yeah. So we were doing a Shakespeare play, and there was a question about Othello, and they were supposed to talk about the characters in the play. And you probably did this too when you're in high school, where you put in filler words to make your essay longer.
Well, yeah, because like so yeah, in the States you have like an essay prompt where it's like it has to be this many words.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just want to get by saying the least amount using the most words.
Yeah, exactly, right? And I want to preface this by saying the teachers always see through that.
Yeah.
You can tell right away when someone's kind of BSing their way through an essay. Yeah. But this one student wrote down on their essay, there was like, human nature is a fundamental part of human nature.
What? Human nature is a fundamental part of human nature. I mean, that is true.
I was just like, I don't know whether to like comment on how insightful that is or just like facepalm.
Yeah.
Because that's the most ridiculous thing I've heard in a long time. Like, human nature is a fundamental part of human nature. It's like,
yeah. Well, the important things are important, right?
Yeah. So it inspired me. So I got a journal and I'm gonna start writing down sentences.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about that.
Speaking of that, so originally we were going to talk about another topic which we'll get to after this one. We will, but so let's talk about like the process of getting into university and stuff, or getting into schools in the United States versus Japan, because do you also help people with their like 大学の入学試験 sometimes?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yes. So something that has recently changed here in Japan is they're starting to require essays. That's a real big change.
They didn't require essays before? What, really?
Wow. They just did entrance exams. It's the same thing for applying to get into high school.
Okay.
And on a personal note, I absolutely hate entrance exams, and I'm really happy that they're kind of shifting away from that, because I feel like that it just creates a lot of stress for students, and I don't really feel like there's much payoff.
Yeah.
But anyways, so they've started requiring essays now. So this is a really new thing for a lot of schools here in Japan. They're kind of like shifting over because there's just not a lot of infrastructure set up to support them with essays. So that's great. I think that's a real good, like a big step forward, I should say.
So for you, I forget, when did you start going to college? Like what year?
Let's see. Oh God, man.
Not how old
let's
you
see.
were,
I graduated in 2017, so 4 years before that. 2013.
2013.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you started college in 2013.
Yep.
I started college in 2009, just because you went to the army and you were doing.
How dare you?
Sorry, you were in the Marines. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. So you were serving your country, and I was just like dicking around.
No, it's okay. I was dicking around too.
So 2009 and 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
What was your process of getting into college like?
So, very, very different.
Yeah.
So normally if you're a high school student, you have to take the SATs.
Yeah.
That's like, I would say that's kind of like a rough equivalent of like entrance exams here in Japan.
But how are they different? They are quite different.
Yeah. So the SAT is a standardized test that'll test you in like 4 different groups. And it's different because it's more of like a generalized test, whereas like your entrance exams in college here, I mean, you're still going to take like the basic stuff, but it's more focused.
Okay.
Like if you're going to a school for English, you're going to be taking an English entrance exam, for example, which in the US you don't have that. You just have an application. You need your SAT scores, and then you send like a statement of intent. You know what that is? That's the essay.
Oh, that's the essay.
That's what it's called, though.
Okay.
It's a fancy
the statement
title.
of intent.
The statement of intent.
Just call it the essay. Yeah, because like I think it's interesting how like in the States, you know, most schools don't have their own entrance exam, but like that's been kind of outsourced to the SAT, standard assessment test, self-assessment test, self-aptitude test, standard aptitude test.
I think it's standard aptitude test.
Standard aptitude test. Okay.
That sounds
the best one. Okay. So you have the standard aptitude test that basically all students in America take, and you get your score back, and then the schools will judge you by your general score and then your individual scores in math versus literature, whatever. Yeah. But it's very basic.
Yes.
From what I hear, compared to stuff that they have in Japan.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think I would say probably the average Japanese student.
Mm-hmm.
Let's play pretend here. Let's pretend that their English ability is high enough to take the test, right? I would say the average high school student in Japan would probably score above average on the SAT.
Yeah.
Just to give people an idea of like what the level of SATs are.
Yeah. I heard that like math in America is like 2 years behind Japan or something.
Yeah,
like
it's something like that.
Yeah.
And science is like about the same.
Yeah.
So Japan's got really good high schools.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to. Like it's really high level schools. It's just the language programs a little bit. But
so the thing though that was interesting for me was like I remember when I was applying to schools is like you would take that SAT test, but then you would have like an individual application for these different schools, and even some of them would have like a standard application. So you have your test, but then you have your application. But I remember when I applied to UW, I was the first student in my school to ever apply to UW. And
that's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. They're like, oh, I said I'm going to University of Washington. They're like, oh, cool, have fun in DC. I was like,
that's so insulting.
Yeah, right. But so they did have this one section. It was a digital online questionnaire that you filled in, and then at the end they were like, here's your essay question. They said, how would you contribute to diversity on campus?
I hate that question. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so many schools in America had that. I don't know if they still have it, but
I'm a white man.
Yeah. Although I kind of milked it for what it's worth because I have foreign
with my exotic Greek background.
I know I have no. So because like my grandmother's an immigrant, so I can play that card a bit. But anyways,
dude, we're all immigrants and we're all Americans.
I know. But I had to get that, you know. But you know the worst thing was I told you so. I was the first person from my school to ever apply to UW, right?
Yeah.
And I got back that I was waitlisted. And I was like, I wasn't going to go. I was waitlisted. I'm like, oh, crap. And then I found out a couple days later that another kid in my AP English class named Corey Meyer had also applied to UW.
He got in, didn't he?
And he got in.
Ah, that jerk.
And he said, no, it's okay, Arthur. I'm going to like Cornell, so I'll open up the space for you. And yep, they told me that it would take about like 4 or 5 months to like find out. But right after he declined, about 2 weeks later, they're like, welcome to UW, Arthur.
I guess we'll let this guy in.
I know, right? But hey, you know, I'm very happy about that.
Yourself.
Yeah.
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
So I remembered that I had to answer the exact same question, but I wrote, well, as a disabled veteran.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're just like, all right, you're in. Cool.
Yeah. So can you talk about like the process of because you did ROTC, right?
No. That's for becoming an officer.
Okay.
So I did what's called the GI Bill.
Yeah. Okay.
So in America, they have a rule where if you serve in the military and you get out, and assuming you didn't do anything bad, you get what's called an honorable discharge. Okay, an honorable discharge is basically you didn't screw up and get arrested. That's what an honorable discharge is. And so when you get out, if you're honorably discharged, then you get what's called the GI Bill. And so this is the government set aside money for like veterans that get out of the military to go back to school. And so when you go into the program, you have to apply and go through like an interview process, but pretty much everyone gets in. And assuming you get accepted for it, the government will completely pay for your entire way through school.
Okay, and in America, that's a big thing because education is so expensive.
It's really expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to put into perspective, as a local person from Seattle, I have the cheapest tuition you could get for the UW. The cheapest, absolutely cheapest. And still, it was $5,000 a quarter.
Okay.
To attend the UW.
Yeah.
Right? And if you are somebody from out of state, I think it goes up to like 7 or 8,000.
Yeah. And
then international is like 10.
Yeah, so for me, I cuz I did that too actually.
Yeah.
And you know, I went to UW around the time of like the Lehman shock and everything.
Yeah.
And so my dad and we had this strategy where I would take a year off from school to work and live so I could claim residency.
Smart.
And really we ended up saving a lot because, so here's the thing. So I started school in 2009. And yeah, in America, it's very common for you to have different costs of education for people who live in the state.
Yeah.
Because you pay your taxes and then that gets used.
Yeah.
For people who are out of state, it's more expensive. So I was out of state, so it was more expensive.
Yeah.
And then for international students, it's even more expensive, you know? So like when I started, I think it was in-state tuition was around $9,000 to like $11,000 a year at UW.
Yeah.
In 2009, it was. And when I graduated, it was around like 15,000 a year. It was crazy how much it went up.
It cost. I looked at the cost of my because it cost about $20,000 a year.
Yeah. For
me to go to the UW. So yeah, it costs about $100,000.
Yeah. For
me to get my
degree.
So
even like international students, when I graduated, I looked at it, and international students were like $30,000 a year.
Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really, really expensive. Yeah. So yeah, it's a huge incentive. I mean, I'm not gonna really voice my political views, but I think the military is a really great way for people to end up paying for college.
Well, a lot of people do that. You know, they're like, oh, I'll get free rides, so I'll go to the military. You know?
Yeah, it's a really common thing.
So then we talk kind of about how the process of getting into school in the U.S. is like that.
Yeah.
What is it like in Japan from what you've seen? Because you work in high
school. So, in some ways, Japan is similar in the sense of you do fill out an application in addition to doing an entrance exam. You can apply for scholarships in the same way that you can in the U.S. And that's about it. Everything else is completely different. It's really interesting because a lot of the challenge with Japanese universities is front-loaded.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
So front-loaded in the sense that if you compare the like pathway to getting a degree at an American university versus the pathway to getting a degree at a Japanese university, it's much easier to get into an American university than it is to get into a Japanese one, but it's significantly harder to graduate.
Okay.
So if you look at the dropout percentages at university and you compare the two with Japan, pretty much almost everyone who gets into universities in Japan, their dropout rate is like negligible.
Yeah.
Like no one drops out of university here. Whereas you look at, I mean, you compare the UW for an example. UW has like something between like a 30-something% dropout rate.
1 out of every 3 people.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people who get into university and end up dropping because maybe something happens in their life or a university is too difficult or whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for people to leave university.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean of where the challenge is front loaded here in Japan, where the exams or the entrance exams are really, really difficult to get into the university. But once you're in, it's not as hard as it is in American universities.
Yeah, when I when I went to Aogaku for that year, I was thinking that this is like a pretty famous school and like this is going to be tough because at the UW I had to work my butt off. Like freshman year, the first year was just a cakewalk, and then the second year I'm like, what happened?
You get into your degree program and you're just like,
what is going
free time? I hate my life. I got to write 10 essays this week. Like,
I know, it was ridiculous. And then I go to Aogaku and I'm like, wait, is this it? Like we just listen to lectures and there's a test at the end?
Yeah.
And then the test is just like rote memorization of things?
Yeah.
this is so easy.
Yeah.
I was really surprised.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I see what you mean. So like you have to work really hard to get in, but then it's a cakewalk after that.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say one or the other is easier or harder because I think they both have their own different sets of challenges, but where you will experience those challenges is completely different. Because like you were just mentioning, your second and third year in university is stressful in the US. Like
it is.
When I was a senior at UW, there were several quarters that last year where I didn't think I was going to graduate.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I'm going to fail this class.
Yeah.
This is so overwhelming. Like, you know.
I'm kind of glad I spent my last year in Japan. That was a lot easier for me.
So I kid you not. I probably got to go see a psychiatrist about this.
Okay.
Probably have like some form of PTSD from university. But I still have nightmares about my senior year.
What?
So I'll tell you the dream.
Okay.
Is I fall asleep and I wake up and I'm still at the UW and like I'm waking up in the middle of class and someone's like, "You okay?" And I'm just like, "What? Why am I here? Like I live in Japan now." And they're just like, "What are you talking about? You haven't graduated yet." And I'm just like, "Oh my God, no!"
That living in Japan was a dream. Oh,
yeah. I've had that dream multiple times, and it's the most horrific dream ever.
You know, that reminds me though. So I live down on the dorm. So another thing that's so once you get into university, that's different is that in American universities, a lot of times they'll have the university owned dormitories. Yeah. Like I found out here in Japan that like schools make contracts with like third party dormitory schools. Like actually there's I know one of my friends went to Temple University in Tokyo, and one of his dorms was actually out here in this area, you know?
Really? This far out?
Yeah, well actually when you think about it, it's not too bad because you can take the Mita line to get to where Temple University is. Yeah. But yeah, so in the States, a lot of times it's common for your first year to be on like university-owned residence halls that are on the campus, right? Yeah. So I remember they were telling us about the different residence halls, and one of them had like a balcony and stuff that you could go out, like McMahon Hall. They had a balcony where you could just chill and stuff. And during finals week, they would lock the window so you couldn't jump off the balcony.
You know, it's probably a good idea. They probably saved a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, but it's funny. They said, these are locked during finals.
Oh my God. It's so stressful.
Yeah. Man.
Oh God, I'm getting stressed just thinking about it.
Okay. Let's change it to happy thoughts. Happy thoughts.
Senior year university was just pure stress.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about, like getting into university in Japan versus like entrance exams in States?
So one other thing that I think is really different is not so much getting into university, but I think a student's life as a senior in high school
in Japan?
In Japan versus in the US, I think is radically different.
Okay.
So if you were to look, okay, actually, before I talk about this, what is your image of a high school senior in the US?
So for me, it's kind of like, oh, you've already kind of decided on a college. Yeah. You don't need to do anything. Yeah. Although there is a case where like if you fail some classes, then you end up not being able to go. But I think even at least at my school, the teachers were like, yeah, we know you want to leave. We don't want you here anymore, so we're going to make it easy for you.
Yeah. Right. And that's pretty much the mentality the entire year. Yeah. It's like, all right, I've got to give you some homework to come up with an excuse for you being in this class. So I don't know, copy some of this down.
Yeah,
and
right.
Just, like look busy.
Yeah, look busy.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it for the entire year.
Yeah.
Right. It's really relaxed. When I was in high school, senior year, I mean, we were going home at like 12.
Okay.
Like 1 o'clock every day. We weren't even staying the full day at school.
Yeah.
In Japan, it's significantly different. So how it works is you'll start your year in April, right? That's when the school year starts here. And it is like, it's like you watch those Olympic relay races, and it's like the person who gets the baton last is just like sprinting to the point where they're almost dying trying to get to the finish line. That's what it's like as a senior here in Japan.
What are they busy with?
So you're busy just grinding out study sessions with entrance exams.
Oh yeah, because
you're just constantly reviewing entrance exams. You're getting advice from your teachers. You're just constantly preparing for entrance exams. And it is, like I said, it's just a dead sprint up until December.
Okay.
And then December, you just stop coming to school.
Okay.
You just disappear. Like, I'm never going to see my seniors again until they're graduating in March.
Okay.
So it's a really stressful time for both students and teachers, because students are obviously preparing, but teachers, we gotta teach a lot. So instead of being like the chill teacher, like, oh, I'm just gonna come up with like some random stuff for you guys to do, it's like, no, we gotta go over this before you guys leave in December, that kind of thing. So it's hectic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, when you say that, so I'm thinking about what my life was like in 2008.
Yeah.
'Cause that was my senior year of high school. I think like the first.
You graduated in high school in 2008?
I graduated 2009, and then I went to school. I went to
UW
later that year.
That's so weird.
Why?
Well, I graduated in 2008, but like we have a pretty significant age gap.
Well,
look at Mr. I graduated earlier. Ooh.
Actually, I started school younger. That was the thing. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So I started school about a year younger or a year earlier than everyone else. So I was always picked on for being the smallest when I was younger.
Oh, that must have sucked.
That's another story for another time. But yeah. So so the first year.
Yeah.
So my school also had quarters actually, but our quarter system started in September. So I remember like the first quarter was like, oh yeah, you've pretty much done all of your SATs, but maybe you need to retake your SATs, and then just do all these applications, send them to your guidance counselor, whatever. And then after that, it was like really just like a cakewalk. But it was really like 2 months of a little bit of focus, but not too much.
Yeah,
because like I don't know about you, but I did my SATs during the summer.
Same.
Okay. Yeah. So during the school break, you do them, right?
Yeah. I think that's pretty common. Usually, like you'll take like your pre-SAT test, the spring before your senior year.
Yeah.
And then junior year will end right in June.
Yeah.
Right. And then like usually July or August, you'll take your SATs, and then you'll apply for colleges the following fall.
Yeah. Also speaking of that, so. Did you ever take like an SAT prep class or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a little bit.
I hated that.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention at all. It probably would have benefited me a lot if I paid attention.
Yeah, so I feel like that's kind of similar to like what in Japan they call like juku.
Yeah.
But I feel like in Japan it's much more prevalent.
Yeah, juku is way harder than the SAT prep class though, because the SAT prep class was only like a month or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it wasn't that long.
Let's practice these exams. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad, but I feel so bad for a lot of my students going to juku when they're in high school, because like they'll go through a full day of high school and then they'll have juku for like 2 or 3 hours, so they're not getting home till like 8 or 9 o'clock every night. Intense, it's just like, oh god, man, you guys have no time for your personal life,
dude. Well, I mean that's just kind of how it is. Like when you're an adult and when you're a kid, you just give your whole life to your work at hand. It's only like when you're in college that you really relax.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's kind of another thing that's different about like the college culture here is it's kind of seen as this time for you to explore yourself. Yeah. Because you're not going to have any chance to do that once you get into the workforce. You're back to work in 10-hour days.
I know. Hearing about your work-life balance, man. It's really tough.
I can't complain. I have a lot of, so being a teacher is like a really weird thing. So you go, it's like a roller coaster. Because you'll go through periods where you're just like insanely busy, like for me right now, right? Pretty much since October, I've been working 6 days a week.
Okay.
However, you'll get other periods like from January to March where it's like all my H3 students have gotten into colleges, so they're done. They're not even coming. So half of my classes are just don't exist.
Okay.
And then the other students, it's like, yeah, you gotta give them something to do for like 3 months, but you have 3 months until your next exam.
Yeah.
So that's a huge amount of time. So it's like people usually just kind of go at a leisurely pace.
Okay.
So it's a really relaxing time.
Okay. It's just now it's like crunch time for you.
Yeah, it's crunch time right now.
Cool, man. Well, I think this is a good place to put a pin in it.
Yeah.
And we can talk about our next topic next time, which is going to be what we do for vacation or how we celebrate.
What do we do on the weekend, right?
Yeah. We'll do that. We'll do that later. We'll talk about how we do that. I mean, normally we do like 2 episodes at one time, so this is good.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I'll see you next time.
All right.
Alright, 最後までご覧いただき誠にありがとうございます。ちなみに僕は一体どこにいるかは気になりませんか？それをお伝えしますが、その前はちょっと大事なことをシェアしたいと思います。ほとんどの英語を勉強している、特に日本人の方はいろんなフレーズ、いろんな文法を学ぶんですけど、いきなり外国人と対面するってなると、頭が真っ白になって言葉が出てこなくて話せなくなります。具体的にどうしたら英語を学ぶだけではなく生の世界で外国人と実際に話せるようになるんでしょうか。その問題を解決するために僕は IU-Connect を設立しました。世界とつながるメソッドという独特な英語学習メソッドを通してレッスンの時だけではなく生の世界で外国人といつでもどこでも気軽に話せるようになるというメソッドですね。でそのメソッドは今無料ガイドでお届けしたいと思います。心から学びたい方にはいつでもアクセスできるようにその無料ガイドでお届けしたいと思いますので、アクセスは You can click up here or you can click the link below this video。では僕は一体どこにいるのか、実は妻の実家にいます。実を言うとですね、あんまり報告されていないんですけど、2年ちょっと前は長男のルイスの出産をお迎えに来たんですけど、今回は次男のレオの出産を迎えに来ています。So I'm here for a while, but I'll still make videos for you guys, and I hope you enjoy them. As always, enjoy your English adventures. 一緒に世界とつながりましょう! See you next time!